is Francesca, and I am so excited to talk to you all today about reading on the first string. So to start off, we will talk about the treble staff. So the treble staff is made up of lines and spaces, each correlating to different notes. So on these spaces, starting from the bottom going up, it goes F to A, C, and E. So E is the top space of the treble staff. And as you can notice, each of the notes skip over the other notes that come in the sequence. So F skips over G, goes to A, and then A is the next space. And then skips over B, goes to C, and then following to E. And then a good way to remember the spaces on the treble staff is by thinking about face. So when you put F, A, C, and E together, you get face, and it's an easy way to remember it as well. So moving on to the lines of the treble staff, you start with the bottom line of the staff, and that's E. And then again, we skip over a note, and then so we skip F, and then go to G, B, D, and then F. So F is the top line of the treble staff. A good way to remember the lines of the staff are every good boy does fine. So if you take the first letters from all of those words, then compile them together, you get the lines that you need to read. So moving on, we'll talk about reading rhythm. So we'll go from whole notes to half notes, quarter notes, and then to eighth notes. So I will count through all of them so you understand how the beats get subdivided as we go into eighth notes, and we'll be looking at exercise 2 for this. So I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another way to count eighth notes is you can count them 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If they seem to be tripping you up, that could be a helpful strategy so that you could work on that. And then moving on to exercises 3 and 4, we're going to be just using the E string, and we're going to be practicing the rhythms that we just learned. So I will count and also play the rhythm just on the first string. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then moving on to exercise 4, we're going to be doing the same thing. And then I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If any of those tripped you up, it might be helpful just to look at the rhythms first, clap them and count them before we even move to the guitar, and that's a helpful way that I have learned certain rhythms in the past if it's a bit of a challenge. So moving on, we will talk about the 3 notes on the first string. So we'll be talking about E, F, and G. So as we just used the E string, it's the open string on the first string. And then F is the first fret, and we play it with the first finger, and it'll be on the first string, and it is notated on the top line of the treble staff. And then G is used with the third finger on the third fret of the first string, and it is notated on the space above the top line. So it's right above where F would be. So moving between E, F, and G, it would go E, F, G. And then just to get comfortable with those 3 notes and going in between them, we will be doing exercises 6 through 8. So starting with 6, I will count us in, and then since we're just doing quarter notes, I will not be counting throughout. But feel free to count on your own if that is something that is helpful for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to exercise 7, I'll be doing the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the last one for this little chunk is exercise 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then feel free to repeat those, or if you want a bit of a challenge, you can always pause pause before I start the exercise and try it on your own to see how you do it, and then play along with me, and then do it as I go. So moving on, we'll be combining the information that we learned about rhythm and then the notes on the first string to then do rhythmic exercises on the first string with the 3 notes that we know. So I will be counting through these since we will be combining in exercise 9, for example. We'll be doing eighth notes, quarter notes, and then a half note at the end. So I will be counting through this. And I recommend that you count as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then moving on to exercise 10, I will be doing the same thing. So I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the last exercise we'll be doing for today is exercise 11. So I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all the exercises that I presented for you all today, I only played through once, but I highly recommend repeating them, going back through them, maybe at a different tempo. If you want to go through it with a metronome, that could be helpful as well. But I hope these exercises were helpful in learning a little bit more about rhythm and reading on the first string.
Let's talk about chords. Now, the guitar is such a unique instrument in the sense that it can play both melody and harmony, sometimes together, or sometimes it can be separate as well. An example of a melody would be something like this. Right? I was playing one note at a time, one after the other. Now, an example of harmony would be if I did something like this. Right? I was playing more than one note at a time there, right? And so what I just did is what we would call chords. Now, chords are when we play 3 or more pitches at the same time, and they are vertically aligned. So what that means is we're playing them all at once. So when we are reading music and we're going along and there's one note at a time, and suddenly you might see more than one note at a time, right? If you have 3 notes stacked on one another, that would be a chord. Now, chords on the guitar can be played a couple different ways. As you just saw, I was strumming, right? So going down, I could, just like we have been learning to strum, I could strum. You can also pluck, right? So you could use your right hand fingers to pluck and get all of those notes to ring simultaneously. And that's important. All of them are simultaneous. They're not, right? They're not doing something like that all at once, right? So I like to think of chords as a note sandwich. We typically have a low note, we have a note or two in the middle, and then we have a high note, right? So in this case here, I have a low note, I have 2 notes in the middle, and then I have a high note, right? And all together, when they're played, voila, a chord, right? All right, now let's talk about left hand position for when we're playing. Left hand position is super important, just like our sitting position when we're playing, the way we move our right hand fingers when we're plucking or strumming is very important. The way we position our left hand is going to help us be successful when we're making chords. So there's a couple little checkpoints that you can kind of think about when you're making these chords. First is we want to make sure our hand is in a nice relaxed C shape. So do this for me. Take your fingers and I want you to just make a nice C like this, right? We don't want to do a claw like this. This is not what we want to do. That doesn't feel very good, right? A nice relaxed C shape. You'll notice here, all my knuckles have a slight curl to them, right? That's going to help us out. We want to be nice and relaxed. If we just let our hand hang down to our side and you pull it up, your hand should look like that C shape already. To me, it kind of looks like one of those Lego figure hands, right? Our hand kind of looks like that, right? So now what I want you to do is with that C shape, I want you to take your thumb and I want you to set it behind the 2nd fret. Now notice my thumb is about in the middle of the neck. My thumb is not up top right here. My thumb's not over here in the headstock, right? My thumb is placed right here. And when my thumb is placed about halfway up the neck, you're going to notice that when I'm maintaining that nice C shape, there's a nice little bit of space in between the fretboard here and the palm of my hand. The palm of my hand is not touching the neck when I am making chords, right? If I'm doing that, I have to really make my fingers do some stuff that doesn't feel very good. So we want to keep that nice open C shape, and that will allow us to play chords a lot more comfortably and effortlessly. So let's start with a G chord. So again, I'm going to take my thumb, I'm going to put it behind the 2nd fret. I'm going to place my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string. And you notice your 3rd finger will probably generally be hovering right above that spot if your hand is in a good position. So I'm going to pull my fingers down really quick so you can see, right, that just my 3rd finger is here. Now, this is a good position right here. We want to make sure that all of our fingers are still relaxed, even the ones we're not using, right? I want to make sure that they're not behind the guitar. I want to make sure that they're, not up, spread out like this. This doesn't really help us either. We want to make sure our hand is engaged like this. These fingers are relaxed. My 3rd finger is engaged here on the 3rd fret of the high E string, and I'm on my fingertip. I'm not going flat. If I go flat like this, it's not gonna work out for me when I start to do some other chords. So you want to start here, make sure we're nice and curled, and that will really help us out. Make sure we're on our fingertips right up close to the fret. Then I'm just going to take my I, M, and A. I'm going to come over here to the sound hole, and I'm going to give them a pluck. And that sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? A great way to make sure that your chords are going to sound good is by going through a short little checklist in your head when you're practicing them. Is my thumb in the right place? Is my thumb too high here? Is my thumb up over here? Remember, we want to have our thumb, generally speaking, behind the 2nd fret. Am I on my fingertips? Is my finger flat? Where are my other fingers? Are they behind? Right? That's not going to really work. And then, do I have a nice C shape in the hand, right? So we want to make sure that there is space between the palm and the neck. We don't want the palm of the hand touching the guitar neck. That's really important. So whenever we have this nice C shape, it creates space. And when you have this beautiful space and proper technique, your chords will always sound beautiful.
Hey everybody, my name is John Storie. I'm a guitar teacher here in Los Angeles, and today I'm going to talk to you about guitar picks. In particular, how we hold the guitar pick, what are the kinds of guitar picks we're going to use depending on the style of music we're playing, the style of the instrument that we're playing, and basically everything that you're going to need to know to at least get started, whether you've used a pick before and you kind of want to try things and switch things up, or you've never used a pick before. So how many of you guys out there have used a pick? I wonder, if you were only here, I could ask you that question. I think we'd be surprised that in a classroom of guitarists, there's actually a significant amount of people who've never used guitar picks before. I was one of those students. When I started playing guitar, I only played with the fingers in the right hand because I had a classical guitar teacher. And then as I got into jazz guitar, I started needing to use a guitar pick in order to play in bands that had drums and bass. So, what are the types of guitar picks that you're going to see when you go out there and start getting guitar picks? Bam! This one right here. This is the Fender Medium Standard 351 guitar pick. And this happens to be in a cool celluloid kind of color. It also comes in a burgundy color. But this is the common guitar pick shape. And when this pick was designed, the designer had in mind that the player would hold on to the big part and that the pointed part would be on the string. But if you pay attention to how some of your favorite guitar players play the guitar, you might be surprised to know that not everyone uses the tip when they play the guitar. Some people use the side of the pick. Some people use the back of the pick. For our purposes today, let's go ahead and review learning how to use a guitar pick with the standard pick approach, where the tip of the pick is what's hitting the string and the larger part of the pick is what we're holding on to. So here's what this pick sounds like. And in the right hand, we can kind of hear some of the attack on the string. Helps when we're strumming chords, playing pop music, because most of the guys that we've heard play the guitar on a lot of those recordings, they've used that standard Fender 351 standard shape guitar pick right here. If you go to a music store and ask for a guitar pick, almost always they're going to hand you a pick that's that shape right there. Here's another pick that's similar to that one. This is made by a company called Blue Chip, and it's a pick that has a pointed tip to it, but it's got a similar big back part that you can hold on to it. This one's kind of nice when you're playing jazz. Kind of has a warmer sound to it. So that's kind of a nice sound. It also is made of this material that's sort of thicker plastic. You see, some picks are made with plastic, some are made with cork and even rock and pearl and all sorts of cool things. If you go to a music store, you might be surprised at the kinds of guitar picks that you're going to see. It's kind of one of the cool things about our instrument is that we've got this little thing that we're always going to play on our instrument. Here's a smaller pick. This is for jazz too. So let's listen to all three of those. Here's the Fender pick. Here's the bigger jazz pick. And here's the smaller jazz pick. Could you hear a difference? They were all a little different, right? So in terms of holding the pick, you're going to have the pick like this. You're going to form a little hook with your finger that's going to go over the front of it right like that. And then the thumb is going to cover it like that. So we've got a box. The thumb, finger, thumb and finger. And then we're going to put our thumb parallel to the strings so that for strumming or for standard picking, we're able to get the pick at the right angle on the string. Some people will use two fingers to hold the pick like this. But as you can tell, that doesn't give me a lot of control. I've got really big fingers, so I prefer to just use index finger and thumb. Again, hook with the finger, hold the pick, thumb on the back, form the box. Hook the finger, hold the pick, thumb on the back, and form this little box right here. That's how we're going to hold that pick. Same thing with the smaller jazz picks. It's just there's less pick that comes out off the bottom of your finger. Now there's some other picks too. There's thumb picks, which get attached to our thumb, which we typically use for like finger picking on acoustic guitar or electric guitar. But for the purposes of today's little demonstration, we're just going to use only the small jazz pick, the large jazz pick, and the standard Fender pick. The standard Fender pick also comes in some thicknesses like thin, medium, heavy, and that just makes the plastic a little heavier. And you'd be surprised when you get those picks how different your guitar is going to sound when you try all the different thicknesses. So again, when it comes to our picks, we can choose any one that we want for a lot of different kinds of guitars, especially steel string guitars, right? Because steel string, the picks generally sound better. You can use picks on nylon string, but that's not a very traditional approach. So you can try it. And maybe in your class, you would use it to help lock in the articulation in an ensemble. But most typically, we're using picks on our steel string guitars, which is our acoustic steel string and our electric guitar, like this Fender Telecaster that's behind me. So once again, I'm John Storie and talking about all these different guitar picks. If you've got any questions, ask your instructor or drop us a line here at GFA.